So today I want to talk about dive watches and why I think that this might be the best value dive watch you can buy for less than $1,000. Now, if you've been following the channel, you'll know that this isn't the first watch that I've reviewed from US microbrand NODUS. That one was pretty good, so when I saw the specification for this and the price, I was pretty keen to take a look. Now, there are tons of dive watches out there. It's the most popular genre, which is why the market is literally awash, no pun intended, with dive watches from microbrands. So if you've got $500 or $600 to spend on a microbrand dive watch, there's plenty to choose from. Having spent some time with this NODUS Sector Deep, I'd say that it's probably one of the best at that price range. I mean, it's not perfect, and I'll explain why later, but for $599, it's pretty damn good. I've also got a pretty embarrassing story about this particular watch. Stick around to the end of the video and I'll tell you all about that. So I know what you're thinking, it's not going to win any prizes for originality of design. Fair comment. You can definitely see they've taken inspiration from some of the really iconic tool watches and divers. Put it this way, if you ask ChatGPT what a combination of a Sinew 50, a Tudor Pelagos and the mighty Rolex James Cameron would look like, I think it would come pretty close to describing this. The bezel measures 42mm. But the case is 38mm. That means the bezel overhangs the case, and it makes it really easy to grip, which is exactly what you want from a dive watch, especially if you're in the 1% of people who will actually take it diving, because divers tend to wear gloves. And not only that, but those proportions mean that it'll also wear really well on almost any size of wrist. If you follow the channel, you'll know that there are baby ants with bigger wrists than me, but I love the way that this wears, and even if I had an 8-inch wrist, I think it would still wear just as well. There aren't many dive watches that you can say that about. That bezel has a matte black DLC finish, with a flat inner ring, and then it slopes away until you get to the chunky knurling, which helps to make it super grippy. That sloped outer edge creates an optical illusion and makes the bezel appear thinner than it actually is. The bezel action is also really nice, and feels very positive and precise as you rotate it through all 120 clicks, and there's virtually no backplay at all. On this version, the Sector Deep Blue, the crown is in the conventional position on the right-hand side, and like the bezel it's large and grippy, and it's also finished in a black DLC coating. Edged in green you've got the word lock, and an arrow indicating the direction to turn it, to screw it down, which I think is a really nice touch. A version with a black dial is also available, and that one's got a destro crown, so it's on the other side of the case, which arguably is more practical and less prone to being knocked if you're diving. And it's definitely handy if you're one of those weird left-handed people and you wear your watch on the wrong wrist. The crystal is sapphire and flat, aside from a sloping outer ring, which echoes the shape of the bezel, and I love the way that it catches the light and distorts the indices at certain angles. The dial is probably where you'll see the most similarities to the Tudor Pelagos, with these blocky indices deeply recessed into an angled chapter ring. There are tapering rectangular battens for the 12, 3 and 9 markers, and squares in between, and a partial batten beneath the date window at 6 o'clock. The handset is also white, and also has a very familiar look to it. I don't know what you think, but to me they look like the hands off a Seiko 5, which wouldn't surprise me as Wes and Cullen, who founded NODUS, are huge Seiko fans. This blue version has this gorgeous inky blue dial, with a vertical gradient, so the bottom half of the dial is almost a really dark shade of navy blue. That, combined with the word deep in green below the pinion, together with 500 in white to indicate its depth rating, and more than a passing nod to another dive watch, albeit one that's more than 20 times the price of this, the ROLEX Deep Sea James Cameron. Powering this watch is a Seiko NH35, which is a cheap and cheerful automatic movement that you'll find in lots of microbrand watches. Given its low cost price, the NH35 isn't known for its accuracy. However, unlike most of the other microbrands that use it, NODUS regulates a movement before closing up the case back, and the watch is shipped with a stated accuracy within a tolerance of plus or minus 10 seconds per day. I haven't got a time grapher to test this one out, but if they've taken the time and the trouble to regulate the movement, I suspect in reality you'll get better accuracy than that. The bracelet is a flat 3-link style, almost like a flatter version of an oyster bracelet, and is super comfortable on the wrist. It's 20mm wide at the lugs, it's got quick release spring bars, and it tapers down to 18mm at the clasp. The folding clasp is milled and released with push buttons on either side, and it features NODUS's trademarked NODEX on-the-fly micro-adjust system. The bracelet and the case both have a bee-blasted finish, and I'm not sure if that's another nod to the Tudor Pelagos and its brushed titanium case, which by its very nature has a very dull, matte finish, or whether the guys at NODUS just thought it would help to give this Sector Deep more of a tool watch vibe. Either way, I like it. Finally, there's the lume, and in that department this NODUS definitely doesn't disappoint, with Grade A Swiss Superluminova BGW9 on the hands, the indices, and the bezel markings. Overall, I think this is a hugely impressive package for its $599 price tag. I mean, okay, I know looks are subjective, but I can't think of a better looking or better spec'd microbrand dive watch at that price point. I mean, drop me a comment below if you can think of one. I know the design borrows a lot from other brands, but NODUS have skillfully blended those elements together to create a really cohesive look. And then you've got 500 meters of water resistance, on-the-fly micro-adjustment, killer lume, and really impressive fit and finishing. The only real negative is that movement. But I guess you can't have everything for this price point. In future, it would be quite nice to see NODUS give you the option to maybe have a Solita movement, for a sensible price premium, of course. Now, at the start of this video, I did say that I had a slightly embarrassing confession to make about this particular watch. God, I don't even know if I should be saying this. So this watch was actually sent to me by the guys at NODUS in the summer of last year. And the intention was that I was going to take it with me on my summer holidays or vacation to France. And being a dive watch, I was going to do some filming with it on the beach and in the sea. However, on the second day of the holiday, I might have jumped into the pool wearing it without having checked first that the crown was fully tightened down. And the result was that it left me with not only moisture under the crystal of the watch, but quite a bit of egg on my face, as I had to explain to the guys at NODUS that I'd basically ruined their watch. Now, luckily for me, they said, look, don't worry, send the watch back and we'll fix it. And sure enough, 5 or 6 weeks later, it was back with me and back on my wrist. So luckily, no harm done, but a very valuable lesson learned to make sure in future, if I ever go near water when wearing a watch, I'm going to make sure that that crown is fully screwed down, because the water resistance rating means absolutely nothing if the crown isn't fully screwed in. God, I'm such an idiot. But guys, drop me a comment below and tell me what you think of this NODUS Sector Deep. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this.